Hello, Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to your 10th session of Book Clubs Across Borders between Islamabad and Balkh. The book that we are discussing today is Iqbal, which is based on the real life story of Iqbal Masih, who was a child labor activist. Before we start our conversation and take your views on the book, I would like my colleague Eamon to give a brief summary of this book, share her views on this book, and then we will go towards our students and listen to their views. So, Eamon, over to you.
I'm going to give a little summary of Iqbal, the novel. And basically, this is largely a story about bonded labor in Pakistan, and specifically a story of bonded child labor in Pakistan, right? And it is told through the story of one child, Iqbal, and the children surrounding him that are bonded to Hussein Khan, right? Who has a carpet weaving business, and the children are working in his carpet weaving workshop and are bonded to him. Some of them are, everyone's bonded for different reasons as well. And this again is something that is explored in the story. The varied multiple reasons why children end up in these places, right? A lot are there because they want to pay off their parents' debts, right? Again, which is a large theme of the story, right? Where children inherit being bonded, right? And again, a very large question that has to be explored through the story itself, right? And so Iqbal stands out as not just a protagonist, but also as one of the most bold characters in the story, right? He is the child, the character who questions through his actions the larger narratives of bonded labor, bonded child labor, the way bondage works in itself, not just the menial physical work that it requires, but the bondage of the mind, which we'll talk about in a bit as well, right? Which is an extremely important and perhaps the most lethal aspect of bondage in itself, right? So Iqbal is depicted as that one child who's not scared of Hussein Khan, and eventually through his actions, he inspires the children around him to also start questioning these larger narratives of bondage and being bonded, and why are they bonded, and how is it's wrong for them to be bonded regardless of their reasons, and what are the options for them now that they are in the situation, right? And what they should do to escape. So it's a very emotional, but also a very intense story in which Iqbal sort of Iqbal's experience with Hussein Khan, who he is continuously challenging, right, sort of creates strength and an emotional bond and learning in these children who are bonded, and how it eventually inspires them to escape and gather the courage to escape as well, right? So Iqbal is bonded. Apparently, he's bonded temporarily, but he sort of stays there for a very long time. And he is also in the process in which he's continuously challenging Hussein Khan. He is also punished. So he is imprisoned in a tomb, again, which sort of invokes the theme of torture, and not just physical torture and being physically bonded, but emotional torture and mental torture that is present in bondage, where you are not even allowed to learn anything. You are not even allowed to think anything outside the confines of bondage. And that is what bondage of the mind means. That the children around Iqbal were not questioning bondage, the larger concept of bondage itself. They were not questioning why they were bonded. They were not questioning that bondage is in fact wrong and that they can escape. And most importantly, that they can dream of happiness or freedom. Even thinking about it was not something that they were exposed to or used to, right? But Iqbal's sort of emergence from the tomb and his steadfastness, let's say, inspired them to sort of start thinking of making memories and dreaming of happiness and freedom, right? And this was very, very apparent in how this girl who was part of the entire group of children who were bonded began drawing a kite, which I think operated as a symbol of freedom and happiness in the future, right? So his sort of journey gave them the confidence to start thinking of escaping someday, right? And his story of where he also escapes for a while as well, right? And the information that he brings back about the existence of the Bonded Labor Liberation Front and how they kind of get that flyer from that organization. And then they take a lot of time to start learning to read it. And that in itself, I think, is quite beautiful that they all made the effort to learn to read just so that they could think of escaping and kind of execute that process, right? And they do so, and eventually Iqbal studies to become a lawyer, but and he sort of even travels the world to create awareness about it all, right? So the larger questions that are explored in this story therefore are quite emotionally charged, right? It's about not just being physically bonded and how it's wrong, but it's also about emotional bondage and mental bondage, and how one has to question bondage before escaping in itself, and how that's extremely important. And I think that importance is encapsulated really well in the tragic death of Iqbal, a very tragic and premature death of Iqbal, which draws attention to the fact that his memory and what he had done, which was inspiring other children to start questioning these larger structures, that memory in itself has to be kept alive, and bonded labor has to be questioned, right, before it is sort of dealt with. And I think that is what the entire story in itself is also about, is to never sort of forget how emotional and mental bondage works before physical bondage takes its effects.
Everyone, hope you all fine. So, as you know, this one focus about Iqbal. Iqbal is a novel about a real boy named Iqbal, and Iqbal Masih, who fought for children from cruel bandit labor in Pakistan. The story is told by a young girl who, along with many other children, was also a bandit labor under the terrible and unfair conditions in Pakistan. So Iqbal is able to escape and set the rest of the children from bandit labor until he is killed at the end of the story. This story, the Iqbal, is an inspiring story for all the people that it helps people to raise up their voices for what they think is right, even if they sacrifice their own life in this way. So it was one of the great books, and thank you for the book.
This is Zara Midi, one of the members of Book Club Across Border. Today I want to talk about one of the best novel books by the name of Iqbal novel. As I read the book, it was about the story of a very boy who was sold to a rag factory by a slave to pay off family debt on his courageous battle to free all children in slavery for a hope of better life as free children. This is a true story as told by Fatima, who was also a child slave, and recounts his life to free them from a life of currently long hours and little food. It was a heartbreaking story, sure to bring tears of your eyes, but also a story of bravery and courage for one so young to be able to stand up himself and many others. Then it was the great novel that I have never read it like this.
Good morning, this is Naris Rasuli from Mazar, Afghanistan. Iqbal is the book that talks about child labor and the courage to give them, to liberate them from all the barriers and all the hardships. Child labor is something that is really common within most of the countries, and children have been the source of working and also source of labor, and the children are working for their families, for the survival of their families. And the countries who are going to change their agricultural system into manufacturing, they are knowing children as the best and main source of successful development. Today, over 200 million of the children among 5 and 17 years old are working as child labor, in child labor, and also they have been working in forced bonded and also for paying the debt of their families. So Pakistan is also one of those countries, and they are going to the story of this book is going to talk about the children who are working as child labor in Pakistan, and they are working on carpet making or brick making. That brick making is going to be done with all the family members, and carpet making is an industry that is done with, mostly with children. So they are all paying the pressure, and also they have no time for play, no time for rest. They are invisible to the outside world, and they are really under pressure, and they don't have the courage to liberate them from all the hardships. So they all need a motivation, and they all need an inspiration and courage to pass all these problems and hardships. So Iqbal is the book that can motivate and can be an inspiration to the people who cannot liberate them from hardships.
Hi everyone, my name is Tamim Dussi. I'm a member of Book Club in Mazar Sharif, Afghanistan. So today's session's book was about Iqbal's novel. It was actually a fantastic book that I have read today in this session, because this was a kind of work that inspired this generation. In this book, it mentioned that Iqbal Lahor's, when he was when he was young, he used to work in a small factory for paying his family's debt. So for many times we see people in our country, or we see people in Pakistan, they should try to get inspired by watching or by reading these kind of books. So this book is, beside of being fantastic, it really inspired other people to be motivated, or to be success, or to be a kind of pursuit of their future. They shouldn't just sit at home and say that I cannot pay the debt of our family, or I cannot pay my school's fees. So they should go ahead and work. If they can't work, they should study hard to get motivate, or to get inspired, and pursue their future, and they will find a brighter future from now. Thank you so much for Book Club for making this kind of sessions for us. It really helps me. I personally find this book very awesome, and I really find it out to work hard because I see that there is no passion without working hard.
In the name of kind and merciful Allah, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Nigina Najim. I hope you are doing well. This book that I studied this month was about a person by the name of Iqbal, and it is a real life story about a boy, Iqbal Masih. He struggled with different events in his life, and he worked at a carpet factory, and also he always forced by his boss, but he had a very patient in his work. The theme of this book was about bravery, cause Iqbal acted as a brave person inside this story. Other theme of this book is resistance, insight, camaraderie, social change, and determination. This book explains a child work hard and face with a conflict, and also it show the difficulty that a person face during his child life, and work as a child in a factory. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everyone, for connecting with us today. It was lovely hearing from all of you. Keep on reading, keep on sharing books, keep on exchanging books with your friends, and we'll see you next time, inshallah. Allah Hafiz.